A mind that will not rest. Adam is driving to work. The traffic is moving slowly. The radio is playing something, but his mind is doing what it has been doing for the last 14 hours. It is replaying a conversation. Last night, with his partner, a comment about something during dinner that landed wrong, a sharper response than he meant, a look on her face that he is still seeing now, words she said that he is now writing better answers to in his head. The version of him that was actually in the conversation said one thing. The version of him that is in his car 14 hours later has a much better script. He is rehearsing it now. For nothing, for no one, just running it. And as he runs it, his body responds the way it would if the conversation were happening right now. His chest tightens. His jaw clenches. There is a small heat in his face, a small recoil somewhere inside. The car has not moved a meter, but his nervous system is in last night's kitchen, having last night's argument again, then again, then again. What Adam is doing has a name. Most of us do it. Many of us do it for hours, sometimes for days, sometimes for years. We do not always know we are doing it. We often think we are thinking. We often think we are working something out. We often think that if we just keep at it, an answer will arrive. It will not. What Adam is doing is rumination. Rumination is the mind running the same distressful material over and over, looking for an exit and never finding one. It is the conversation you keep replaying, the decision you keep second-guessing, the text message you keep rereading, the interaction at work that keeps coming back at 3 in the afternoon, and at 9 at night, and at 2 in the morning, when you should be resting. But instead, you are remembering the look on someone's face from a meeting last Thursday. Rumination is not the same as thinking, although it disguises itself as thinking. It is not the same as reflection, although it borrows reflection's focus. Rumination is its own thing, and once you can recognize it, you cannot unsee it. You will start to notice it in yourself, and in the people you love, and in the small, ordinary moments when a person stares at nothing for a beat too long, and you can almost see the loop running behind their eyes. This episode is meant to help you notice when you fall into rumination. We are not trying to change anything. We are only trying to see clearly. Let us begin with the most important distinction. Rumination is not problem solving, and this is where most of us get stuck for years. If someone asked Adam, in the middle of his 14-hour replay, what he was doing, he would not say, "I am ruminating." He would say, "I am trying to figure something out. I am working through what happened. I am thinking about how to handle it better next time. I am preparing for the conversation I might need to have when I get home." He believes this. His mind believes this. His mind has been doing this for hours, and it would not have committed itself so seriously to something it considered useless. So it has named the activity productively. It has called the loop work. It has called the loop processing. It has called the loop responsible adult problem solving. It is not. Here is the difference, and it is worth paying attention to. Problem solving has a direction. Problem solving moves toward a decision. It asks, what is the situation? What are the options? Which option will I choose? When will I act on it? There is a beginning, a middle, and an end. There is an exit. You step out of the thinking the way you step out of a room when you are done with it. You may not have the perfect answer, but you have an answer that is good enough to act on, and the thinking has done its job. Rumination has no direction. Rumination is a circle, not an arrow. It does not ask, "What will I do?" It asks, "What is wrong with me? What is wrong with them? What does this mean? Why did I say that? Why did they say that? What did they really mean? What does this say about us? What does this say about who I am as a partner, as a friend, as a person?" The questions multiply. The questions do not lead anywhere. There is no exit, because there was never a door. This distinction is diagnostic. If your thinking is moving toward a decision you can actually make, it is problem-solving. If your thinking is circling questions about meaning, identity, blame, or impossible alternate paths, it is rumination. The two activities feel similar from the inside. They are not similar. One has a destination. The other has a track. Here is a quick test you can run on your own loops. In the middle of the loop, ask yourself one question. What am I going to do with the answer when I get it? If you can answer that question, if you can say, "When I figure this out, I will act on it in some specific way, by Tuesday," with these particular words, you are probably problem-solving. The loop has a use. If you cannot answer that question, if there is no concrete action waiting at the end of the loop, only more loop, you are ruminating. The loop has no use. It has only momentum. Adam, sitting in traffic, asks himself this question for the first time in 14 hours. What is he going to do with the answer when he gets it? He does not know. There is no answer that would actually end this. There is no perfect script for last night that, once written, would unwind what happened. There is no version of him that, once identified, would stop ruminating about all the previous versions. The loop has no exit because the loop was never headed anywhere. This is the first thing that has to be seen. It does not change the loop, but it changes your relationship to the loop. The loop stops being work and starts being something else. If rumination does not solve anything, then why does the mind keep doing it? It is a fair question, and the answer is gentler than you might expect. If you ruminate, your mind is not failing you. Your mind is not stupid. Your mind is doing what minds were built to do. Long before you and I had jobs, and partners and group chats, our minds evolved to keep us alive. The most useful thing a mind could do, for most of human history, was anticipate the predator, anticipate the lean season, anticipate the conflict in the village, run scenarios, imagine the future, prepare. The minds that did this well kept their bodies alive longer. The minds that did not, did not. You inherited one of the good minds, the kind that runs scenarios, the kind that imagines what could go wrong so it can prepare, the kind that revisits painful events to extract lessons so the same pain does not happen twice. The problem is not that your mind does this. The problem is what your mind is doing it about. Most of the things your mind is now ruminating about are not predators. They are not famines. They are not threats to your survival in any literal sense. They are conversations, misunderstandings, half-finished arguments, moments of awkwardness, texts that did not get the response you wanted, the look on someone's face, the thing your sister said at dinner 3 weeks ago. Your mind is treating these the way it would treat a predator. It is running them. It is rehearsing them. It is trying to extract a lesson, find a solution, prepare for the next encounter. But these are not problems with solutions. These are not threats with strategies. These are mostly just things that happened between people who are imperfect, in lives that do not always come with clean answers. Your mind does not know this. It keeps running the program, Because the program has worked, evolutionarily, for hundreds of thousands of years. It does not know that a tense moment with your partner is not a tiger. It has put the same machinery on it. So the first piece of compassion you can offer yourself is this. The loop is not your fault. The loop is your nervous system trying to protect you, using a tool that was excellent for predators and is poorly suited for adult relational life. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are running ancient hardware on modern problems, and it is misbehaving the way it does for almost everyone. This does not mean you have to keep running it. It just means you do not have to attack yourself for running it. There is a truth about thinking harder that the research has been showing us for decades. People who ruminate more do not, in fact, end up with better answers. They do not feel more clear afterward. They do not solve their problems more effectively. They do not move on more cleanly. The opposite is true. Ruminators feel worse. They make less effective decisions. They stay stuck in painful states longer. The thing the mind believes will produce relief produces, instead, the deepening of suffering. This is not because ruminators are unintelligent. Many of the most thoughtful people you know are also the most haunted by rumination. It is because of how the brain learns. The brain solidifies what it repeats. Every time you run a loop, you are not just running it. You are reinforcing the neural pathway that makes the loop easier to run next time. You are deepening the groove. You are teaching your mind, very efficiently, that this material is important and should be available for instant recall. Tomorrow, the loop will be slightly more accessible than it was today. Next week, it will run before you have decided to run it. Eventually, it will run while you are doing other things, and you will not even notice it has started. This is the cruel mechanic of rumination. The thing that feels like working through is actually a form of practice. You are practicing being in the painful state. You are practicing the look on her face. You are practicing the tightness in your chest. You are getting better at producing the feeling, even though the feeling is the thing you are trying to escape. There is a phrase in psychology: neurons that fire together, wire together. It is a cliché by now, but it is true. The conversation you keep replaying becomes more available to you than the conversations you do not replay. The interpretation you keep returning to becomes more believable than the interpretations you do not. After enough repetitions, the rumination is no longer about the original event. It is about itself. It is a loop that has become self-sustaining. This is why willpower alone does not stop rumination. You cannot think your way out of a loop that is built out of thinking. You cannot reason yourself into stopping when reasoning is the very mechanism of the loop. Something else has to happen. Something other than thought. We will get to what that something else is. But first, we need to talk about where rumination shows up most and where it does the most damage. Adam is still in traffic. The car has moved a quarter mile in the last 10 minutes. The loop is still running. What he does not know, but what is true, is that he is no longer in last night's conversation. He is in his 14-hour rehearsal of last night's conversation, and the rehearsal has changed him. The version of him that left the kitchen last night, mildly hurt, somewhat regretful, was a person who could have come home tonight and said, "Hey, I have been thinking about what happened. I want to talk." The version of him that is sitting in traffic right now, after 14 hours of running the loop, is a person whose nervous system has spent the day in low-grade combat. He is more defensive than he was when he left. He is more sure he was right. He is also more sure she was wrong, and more sure that she does not understand him, and more sure that this is a recurring pattern that proves something deeper about the relationship that he had not noticed before this morning. None of this is true. None of it happened. There has been no new information. There has been only the loop, but the loop has manufactured a version of reality, and Adam is now living in that version. This is what rumination does to people in relationships. It does not just hurt the ruminator. It changes them. By the time the ruminator gets back to the partner is meeting someone other than the person they argued with. The partner is meeting someone who has been quietly building a case for 14 hours, populating it with imagined evidence, rehearsing rebuttals to arguments the partner has not yet made. The partner walks into a courtroom they did not know was being built. There is a name for this in the couples literature: the flooding pattern, the negative sentiment override. Whatever it is called, the dynamic is the same. One partner ruminates between conflicts and arrives at the next conversation already flooded, already braced, already convinced. The conversation, when it happens, never quite gets to start fresh. It starts in the middle of the storm the ruminator has been building alone. If you have ever wondered why a small disagreement in your relationship sometimes blows up into something much larger when you try to revisit it, rumination is often the stealth answer. The thing you were going to talk about, when you talked about it 12 hours later, was no longer the thing. It was the thing, plus everything your mind had added in the interim. The same dynamic shows up in other places too. The friend you keep meaning to call but cannot, because you have been ruminating about an interaction with them for weeks, and now the interaction feels too big to bring up. The coworker you cannot quite trust anymore, after a single ambiguous comment that you have replayed enough times to make it feel certain. The family member you slowly distance from, because the loops about them have become more vivid than the actual person. Rumination quietly damages the relationships it claims to be protecting. It convinces you that you are working things out, when you are, in fact, slowly drifting away from the people you most want to stay close to. So what do you do when you can feel the loop starting up? What do you do in the car at 8 in the morning, with 14 hours of rehearsal still echoing in your chest? The work is gentler than you might expect. There is no trick that will make rumination stop forever. Anyone selling you a trick is selling you a fairy tale. But there are 3 quiet movements that, practiced over time, change your relationship to the loop. We will go through them slowly. The first movement is naming. Rumination does most of its work in disguise. It pretends to be problem-solving. It pretends to be reflection. It pretends to be the responsible thing your good adult mind is supposed to be doing. As long as it remains unnamed, it gets to keep operating hour after hour with your full cooperation. The first thing you can do, the very first thing, is to recognize the activity for what it is and identify it. This is rumination. Not, this is me thinking through something important. Not, this is me being responsible. Just, this is rumination. The way you might name a weather pattern. The way you might name a familiar visitor. The naming does not stop the loop, but it changes your relationship to it. The loop becomes something you have, not something you are. You become someone watching a loop run, instead of someone caught inside one. That tiny shift is more powerful than it sounds. It creates a small space between you and the activity. And in that small space, the next 2 movements become possible. Adam, in traffic, tries this. He notices the conversation looping again. He notices himself drafting a better script for the 40th time. And instead of running it again, he says, in his head, "Oh, I am ruminating. This is rumination." The loop does not vanish. But, for the first time in 14 hours, he is not inside it. He is watching it. The second movement is shifting attention through the body. Rumination lives in the head. It is made out of words and images and arguments. As long as you stay in your head, the loop has the home advantage. You cannot outthink a thing that is built out of thinking. You have to leave the room. The fastest way to leave the room is through the body. Notice your hands on the steering wheel. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. Notice the sound of the engine. Notice your feet on the floor, your back against the seat, the breath moving in and out without your having to manage it. None of this is dramatic. None of it requires meditation training. It just requires that you put your attention, briefly, somewhere other than the loop. The loop will pull at you. The loop is a strong magnet, and it has been running unopposed for hours. You will return to it within seconds. That is fine. That is expected. The work is not to stay out of the loop forever. The work is to develop the small, repeated motion of stepping out, even if you immediately step back in, because each step out teaches your nervous system that stepping out is possible. Adam tries this. He notices his hands on the wheel. He notices the radio, which has been playing all along and which he has not heard a single word of. He notices the warm air from the vents, and the loop returns. He notices it return. He returns to focusing on his hands. The loop returns again. He focuses on the air blowing on his face. This is the practice. It does not look like much. It is, in fact, the whole thing. The third movement is containment. If rumination is going to happen, and it is, often no matter how skilled you become at the first two movements, it helps enormously to give it a container, a specific time, a specific place, a boundary. This sounds counterintuitive. The intuition is to fight the loop, to suppress it, to push it away. But suppression does not work either. The loop comes back, often louder. What works is the opposite. You make space for the loop. You give it a designated time. 15 minutes in the afternoon, perhaps, or a slow walk after dinner. During that time, you let the loop run. You let it do what it does. And then the time ends, and you ask the loop to wait until tomorrow. This sounds silly the first time you try it. It will not feel silly the 10th time. The loop, given a container, becomes containable. The loop, told it will get its time tomorrow, often loosens its grip today. You are not telling it to go away forever. You are telling it that there is a place for it, and that place is not your morning commute, your dinner with your family, or the quiet moments when you are trying to rest. Adam has not done this yet, but he could. He could decide that at 6 o'clock tonight, he will sit on the back porch for 15 minutes and let the loop run all it wants. And he could decide that, between now and then, when the loop tries to start, he will say, "Not now, 6 o'clock. You can have the porch." The loop will not be happy about this. The loop will try anyway. But over time, the practice changes things. The loop learns its place. In closing, let us come back to Adam. The traffic has thinned. The exit is coming up. The conversation is still in his head, but it is quieter than it was. He has noticed, for the first time in 14 hours, that he was not actually thinking. He was looping. That recognition has not solved anything. He still feels tender. He still wants to talk to his partner when he gets home. But he is going to walk in as the man who left her last night, not as the man 14 hours of rehearsal have built. The conversation he has, when he has it, will be a real conversation. It will not be the courtroom drama his loop had been preparing. That is what these 3 movements give you. Slowly, over time, not silence, not a mind that never loops, just a slightly different relationship to the loop when it shows up, the capacity to notice, the capacity to step out, even briefly, the capacity to give the loop a place that is not the whole of your inner life. So here is something small to carry with you when you finish this episode and return to whatever your day holds. The next time you notice yourself replaying something, a conversation, a moment, a small ambiguous text, try the simplest version of the first movement. Just put a word on it. Say, in your head, this is rumination. Not as a judgment, not as something to fix, just as a name. Notice what happens to the loop in the second after you have named it. Notice that, for a moment, you are watching it instead of swimming in it. If you can manage the second movement too, see what happens when you put your attention briefly on something physical. Your feet on the floor, the temperature of the air, the breath moving in and out. The loop will pull you back. That is fine. The whole point is not staying out. The point is the small motion of stepping out and back again and again until your nervous system learns that this is something you can do. You have lived inside loops for a long time. You have called them thinking. You have called them working things out. You have given them years of your hours, sometimes whole days, sometimes whole seasons of your life. None of that was your fault. Your mind was doing what minds do. It was protecting you with the only tool it had. But you have other tools now. You can name what is happening. You can step out of the room briefly. You can give the loop a container instead of letting it have the run of the house. You will not be perfect at any of this. You will catch yourself, sometimes, hours later, deep in a loop you did not notice starting. That is fine. The work is not perfection. The work is the slow practice of seeing a loop sooner this time than you saw it last time. Because the mind that will not rest is not your enemy. It is a tired protector that has been running an old program for far too long, and it can be, slowly, gently, taught a new one. You are still you. You are still learning, and the loop is something you have, not something you are.